Hello again, and on the bench today, I'm sure you might have recognised it already, well, partially, it's a CB radio, and but it's not a normal CB radio. It's a very strange and exotic beast, and I think they're probably close to extinction in these days. So the story goes, back in the late 70s, early 80s, people were bringing in AM CBs to this country from Europe and from America, and they were illegal to be used in this country. But they took off massively. And at one point I would be guessing there would be up to 1 million people using these illegal AM 27 megahertz CBs. So the government panics, as they always do, and after a year or two they finally got off their arses, because they have a long way to climb from their chairs obviously, and they thought, well, we can't have this going on, we've got to introduce our own system of legal CB, because it was getting more and more popular at that time with the illegal ones. So what they did was, they devised the system, or somebody with intelligence designed a system, not the government, because they have no intelligence whatsoever, but they proposed there would be two legal CB bands in this country. The obvious frequency to use for one of them was 27 megahertz, and in their infinite wisdom they decided to go for a completely different system to everybody else in the world. They went for FM. Excuse me, it's all this damp, it's pouring like hell here, pouring rain. Anyway, they decided to go for a 27 megahertz system with FM rather than AM, which is a good idea. I think FM's a fair bit of an improvement over AM. So they got full marks for that one from me. But on the other hand, they went ahead with totally different frequencies. Well, it would have been a bit pointless having them on the AM channels, wouldn't it? They were still being used illegally. So they went for a completely different 40 channel frequency allocation that nobody else in the world used, I think, but I may be wrong. And as a last effort on their behalf, or the companies that were devising all these ideas, they decided also to license a band for CB at 934 megahertz, which is quite a high frequency. And this is what this is. This is a Cybernet Delta 1 934 megahertz personal communication transceiver. And I did a bit of research, and at the time these were selling, probably early mid 80s, they wanted £355 for one of these, and that was at a time when you could buy an illegal AM for about £40. £355 for a radio that, unless you lived on top of a hill or would regularly drive to the top of the hill, I think you would get fairly poor results from, because of that frequency involved. But nevertheless, they must have sold a few of these or similar ones, and I've never seen one before, so I'm quite curious to see if it still works and how well it works. It's got all sorts of complicated things on it which I don't understand. got normal volume and squelch, up and down channel, which is okay. Memory, you've probably got a memory channel you can store and clear maybe. Auto manual. I think what auto does, it scans the channels. And by the way, there's 20 channels with 50 kilohertz spacing. So why they went for 50 kilohertz spacing, I'm not quite sure. And it's supposed to be 5 watts output, which is quite a decent power for those frequencies. Went quite hard, I think, to get that amount of power in those days at that frequency. And what else was I going to say? Can't remember. It's something to do with the channels. I'll come back to that, whatever that miscellaneous piece of nonsense was that was in my head. Anyway, it came with no microphone, but I've been through my little explore junk box in the corner, which you take your life in your hands when you go in it, because you never know what's lurking in there. I found a CB microphone, and it is compatible because I've tested it, so that's good. So let's have a look at it. I've already took the top off it, but I'm not going to go in it yet. What I do like particularly, they've done the job properly, and they put a nice end type, although the pins look slightly bent, probably because somebody's tried to stuff something in there that didn't belong in there. Okay, let's go around the back. So rather than having a socket on the back, I think that's quite a good solution to have that cable like that. So we've got external speaker on the left there, and a rather curious socket which is for external S meter. A bit pointless. I bet that never ever got used. Usual voltage 13.2 roughly. It's got a bizarre plug on it though, and I haven't got a plug like this, and I don't want to cut it off because this radio does not belong to me. And we've got the usual black wire, which will be 0 volts, and we've got a red wire which is positive obviously, and then a blue wire. I think the blue wire is just one of those things you used to have on car radios, and that would just switch the radio on when you turn the ignition on, and you could have the main power permanently connected to the battery. So I've had to stuff some wires in there, not very well, but they may work okay. And it does say in the manual that that blue wire needs to be connected to positive. So what should we do with it next? Have a quick look in it. Okay, that's the top cover removed, and I'm surprised how advanced in construction this is when you consider it's the early 80s. There's a lot of surface mount going on in here. A lot of surface mount. There's also a box at the back, which I'm presuming is the power amplifier and switching for receiving, transmitting. Also probably some filtering. Oh, I know what I forgot last time. Of course, 934 megahertz now was greedily taken by all the cell phone companies many years ago, and that's where they occupy these days, so you couldn't really probably use one of these anymore. So let's have a look in the other. Let's put the top back on that one, because there's not a lot to see under there. This has got the speaker on it with quite short wires. There's a bit of solder getting in there, don't want that in there. So when we look in the top, you can see how complex this radio is. If you went into a normal 27 MHz CB, you wouldn't see anywhere near the stuff that's going on in here. It's got numerous chips, numerous daughter circuit boards. For what they do, I have no idea. Another one there, another one down there, another daughter board, another one there. Do I recognise any of these chips? What I do see on one of them is 1984 date code, which ties in quite correctly with what was going on at that time. But again, we've got something going on here. Could be a filter for the receiver, not sure. Could be the transmit amplifier under there, probably not, because the transmit amplifier will be in there. And looks like there might have been maybe some holes for adjustments, not sure. What else can I see? Nothing much of interest. There's a big box there, and all that does. It's almost like it's some sort of filter of some type. Who knows? Don't know what else is going on in here. But it's incredibly complicated. It's amazing that they ever got this thing to work. No wonder it cost £355. So I think the next thing to do really is to connect it up and try it. That's what I do. Okay, I've got 14 volts on it. You have to put up with that, even though it said 13.2. Let's press the power button, and we get a 1 and a squeak. And there's a signal meter there, but I've got no signal going in the moment. Volume, turn the volume up. Squelch. That's quite a healthy sign. Okay, let's stick a signal up it. I've got a signal generator running. Channel 1, I believe. I wrote it down. 934.0125, which is what I've got on the signal generator at the moment. And plug that in. So I'm using minus 50 dBm, which is quite a big signal. Got a bit of scratching, that could do with a clean on the volume. It's clearly receiving with a fair bit of volume. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop down the signal level and see how sensitive it is. Minus 80 dBm, minus 100. Still got a bit of a signal there. Minus 110, getting a bit noisy. Still just about readable at minus 120 dBm, which is 0.2 microvolt. So compared to other radios that I regularly test on VHF or UHF, it is a fair bit less sensitive. But with the technology available at the time and the possibility of it maybe out of alignment I think it's performing quite well, considering. And it's certainly demodulating my 400 Hertz tone quite well. Let's put it back to -50 dBm, nice clear tone, and let's go up a band, in other words go up to channel 2, 934, 962, what? Oh, I forgot to do this, didn't I? Silly me. So there you go, works perfectly. I'm sure if I kept doing that, I'll see if it works on channel. Oh, that's channel 20, is it? How does that work then? I must have written that down wrong. I've put 20 as being 9.4. Can't work any of that rubbish out. Hang on a minute. Let me do some calculations. Yeah, it's me just getting a bit confused there. That is channel 20, so I'm going to dial that in on the signal generator. Three, 4.9625 megahertz. Yeah, it works perfectly, doesn't it? Let's see if search works. Doesn't work. Maybe because it's stopped on that channel. Interesting. So I put, oh, that's clever. You can make it scan. That's pretty nice. Ah, but then after a while it goes on scanning. Gives you a chance to stop it, I guess. How do you stop it? How do you stop it scanning then? Ah, clear. Clear stops it scanning. Very nice. What's auto do then? Nothing. Auto. I ought to read the manual. I can't be bothered. Manuals are as a last resort normally. I'll find out later what that does. Maybe come back to it. But all in all, I'm quite impressed with that. It works on receive. But the big question is, does it work on transmit? Well, let's find out, shall we? Okay, microphone connected. Let's just press transmit. We get full scale reading on that, which is promising. And the power supply is drawing 1.4 amps basically, and 300 milliamps in receive, so that works. Let's have a look at it. I've got it connected to Spectrum Analyzer, and what I've done is, of course, because I don't want to blow up my Spectrum Analyzer, is put it through a 30 dB power attenuator. So if I zoom in on that screen, assuming I can get everything stable. Okay, I think what I've done is I've compensated for the 30 dB attenuator on the input to the Spectrum Analyzer, and rather than measuring in dBm, I'm measuring in watts. So if I press transmit, I'm getting 1.5 watts, but I'm wondering if I've got a dodgy connection with that plug on the back. which is quite possible. If I fiddle with that a bit, no, it's not really any better, is it? So it's not exactly not exactly 5 watts. But it is on frequency, I think. Was 012, might be 50 hertz off, 500 hertz off. Because I could use a power meter to measure this, but I just wanted to get a general idea of what power it's producing. I think what I really would like to do though, before I go any further, is try and make a proper connector for that plug, because I might be having a dodgy connection there. So I have devised some better connectors for it. I managed to bodge something, but I'm looking in here, I've got the can off, which is really not that easy because it's screwed in from the back, because I wanted to see what was in the power amplifier, and I was hoping for some trimmers to get the maybe get the power up, but there are no trimmers because it's using one of these blocks, RF block amplifiers, so there's no way to get more power out of this. There's a possibility this has been damaged at some point, this power amplifier block, and unless I can find the drive signal that goes into it, then I don't know if I can improve that power output. But what am I doing it for anyway? You can't use it. Anyway, what's under here then? So yeah, you got connections to that power amplifier, the biasing and signal in and whatever. Signal in looks like it comes from here. It's a nice white coax. Signal in comes from there, I reckon, and I wonder where that goes to then. On the other side, oh dear, I have a horrible feeling it goes to this mystery can. So there's probably some adjustment underneath there somewhere. Not much point me trying to peel that off, is there? Because there's no holes in it. There's no holes in the top. So it must have come pre-adjusted. And the other interesting thing is I noticed in here is the pretty sure that's a reference oscillator, because you can get in there and it's got an F on it. That's a giveaway. So if it's off frequency, I can adjust it. I'm going to have a cup of coffee. Well, I admit it, it was my dodgy connections on the back of the cable. Don't do that. Power supply shorting out. No. I crimped those new ones that I reclaimed from something else, and now they're making a decent contact, because when I was transmitting before I was only getting 10 volts actually at the radio. Dodgy wiring, it's my fault. Now when I transmit I'm getting massive amounts of power and it's drawing 2 amps. Let's go over to the analyzer. Right, I think you can see that more or less. Peak is reading 6.5 watts. Well, that is impressive, isn't it, for something that old, and considering it's only supposed to produce 5, that it's managing all that. Oh, I wonder what the harmonica's like at 1800. Let's try it, let's have a look at that one. Now, start frequency. Start frequency, say 900 meg. Stop to gig. Alright. Where's the harmonic gone? Let's put 1.8 marker. Was twice 934 anyway, I can't do that. Okay, after a lot of faffing around, I found the second harmonic on 1868 megahertz, and it's 5 microwatts, which is reasonable. 5 microwatts, something like 60 odd dBs down on the fundamental, I guess. So no problems with that. Can't measure the third harmonic, never mind. But to do this job properly, rather than relying on the spectrum analyzers to measure power, I'm going to connect it to my Agilent RF power meter, see what that makes of it. Okay, let's have a look on this power meter. I'm seeing an 8 there. It's jumping around a fair bit. If you look at the bottom reading on the bar graph, you'll see how it's moving up and down a bit. No idea why it's doing that. I don't think this could be a problem, might not be, but it's sort of averaging 6, 7 or 8. 6 or 7. It's more than it's supposed to produce anyway. Let's drop the voltage slightly. I suppose it'll make any difference. 13 volts. No, it doesn't make any difference at all. Fine. I don't think there's much more I need to do really, but I would like to listen to what the audio sounds like. But that's a difficult endeavour, because I have to drag my ICOM 9700, not 9700, ICOM 8500 down here from where it lives upstairs. But it would be nice to finish off with an audio test. That's interesting. It's more stable on channel 2. Well, it was. Forget that. Let's try channel 20. Nah, it's doing the same thing. Jumping about a bit. Yeah, the other thing I'd like to do is check its frequency accuracy, because it might need a bit of a tweak. So I'll do that thing. I think I'll do that next. Change my mind, as I tend to do. I'm going to check the audio. Now this is a complicated thing to explain. My receiver's upstairs, tuned to 9340125, and it's got a very low power FM transmitter inside it. So I'm transmitting that received signal on an FM frequency of 108 megahertz. And I only do that when I'm doing testing. It's easier than dragging the radio down. And so I'm now receiving it on a tuner up there. So if I press the button, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that seems to be working very reasonably well. I don't know what state this microphone is. It's been knocking around for years, but I'd say that was working quite well. Now I hope you understood all that complication, but it's rather than dragging that radio down, which has got stuff all over on top of it, that was the best solution to checking the audio, and I'm sure it'll be just as good on other frequencies. Right, I'm going to check its frequency accuracy and adjust it if necessary. So taking the output from the power attenuator up to the counter. So I think the camera's fairly stable. Let's transmit. What does that say? 934012. It's supposed to be 5 on the end, isn't it? So I'll tweak that. And I can find the hole, as the actress said to the bishop. Can't find it. Right. Oh. Right, now I've got it. Very, very touchy. I think that's good enough. 934012. It's a little bit out still. But what's the point? It's never going to be used, is it? There you go. That's good enough. Let's try channel 20. No idea what that frequency is. Although I think I wrote it down. 9625. 9265. Yeah, that's good enough. Yeah, I think that's good enough for something that you can't use these days, and if you tried to, you'd probably get loads of cell phone companies coming to knock on your door for interfering with them. What else did I have to do to it? I know what I have to do to it. I've got to clean the pots up and then it's finished. So, there it is, all back together. It's quite hard doing those pots, so I'd take the whole front panel off to get to them, but no more scratching, which is good. Bit of scratching on the front there. So there you have it, a very 40-year-old CB radio that is virtually useless, but at least I got it doing what it should do, and checked it over, and I still haven't worked out what all this auto manual rubbish is. I'm not going to work it out either, because what's the point? So yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.